let's bring our meeting to order. Roll call, Mr. Clerk. Ames.
Here.
Bonner.
Here.
Gray.
Here.
Neal. Patrick.
Here.
Kroll.
Here.
Showman.
Here.
Tapman. Here. Trutchell. Here. Everyone please stand for our pledge. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, we need to do the approval of the minutes. Anyone have a motion for that? Mr. Bonner,
I make a motion to approve the minutes.
seconded by anybody? Mr. Kroll? Roll call. Ames.
Yes.
Bonner.
Yes.
Gray.
Yes.
Patrick.
Yes.
Kroll.
Yes.
Showman.
Yes.
Tapman.
Yes.
Trutchell. Yes. We have reports of committees. Mrs. Ames.
Thank you, President Trutchell. Development has 3 items on the agenda tonight. The first 3. Number 1 is the third reading of a resolution to accept the report of the Chillicothe Reinvestment of Various Taxes in the Review Council. This is an annual resolution we have, and I look for favorable support tonight. Second is the first reading of an ordinance to amend ordinance number 2814 to state correct parcel numbers and authorize action by appropriate city officials to ensure corrections. If Met Council members looked, what happened with this is the zoning for Habitat Humanity, and somehow the wrong parcel number got on it. It actually has 2 parcels. The property had been split. So that's the only change. The ordinance will still stand. It's just that they would have to have those changed. So at the appropriate time, we would ask for the pre-review rule pass that tonight to get those numbers corrected in the ordinance. Item number 3 is the first reading authorizing the filing of an application to participate in the Small Cities Community Development Block Grant Allocation Program for fiscal year 2014 and accept the grant funded. Again, this is an ordinance that we do every year, and in conjunction with this, there's going to be a public hearing to discuss the various CDBG programs. It will be held on Tuesday, May 27th at 11 o'clock a.m. in the City Administration Building, first floor conference room. And the public is invited to attend. This is for economic development projects, street and drainage improvements, downtown revitalization, demolition of unsafe structures, and rehabilitation of housing and neighborhood facilities. And activities for this must be designed to primarily benefit low and moderate income persons, aid in the prevention and elimination of slum and blighted areas, or meet an urgent need in the community. So again, that will be a public hearing on Tuesday, this coming up Tuesday, a week from tomorrow, May 27th at 11 o'clock, the City Administration Building. And this ordinance, this resolution needs to be in by June 20th, so I will ask to pass it at the next meeting after the public. And that concludes my report.
Thank you, Mrs. Ames. Mrs. Gray.
Thank you, President Trutchell. The Human Resources Committee has 2 agenda items this evening. Item number 5, which is a first reading to appropriate an additional $13,000 to salary and benefits of seasonal workers employed at the Donald M. Smith Memorial Pool for 2014. At the appropriate time, I will ask to waive the 3-read rule for this particular legislation. And item number 8, which is a first reading of ordinance to establish the salary schedule for part-time seasonal employees for the parks and swimming pool departments of City of Chillicothe. And at that time, at the appropriate time, I'll also ask to waive the 3-read rule. The Human Resources Committee has 4 outstanding assignments. 2 of them are currently with the Law Director's Office and will be presented to Council upon completion. That will be legislation requests 1444 and 1467. And I want to acknowledge receipt of legislation requests 1475 and 1476. That is my report.
Thank you, Mrs. Gray. Mr. Tapman.
Thank you, President Trutchell. First off, I'd like to excuse Beth Neal.
Motion excused, seconded by Mrs. Ames. Roll call?
Ames.
Yes.
Bonner. Yes. Gray.
Yes.
Patrick.
Yes.
Kroll. Yes. Showman.
Yes.
Tatman.
Yes.
Trutchell.
Yes.
Also, since she called me and is going to be at the beach, she asked me to bring up item number 4 on tonight's agenda, and it's concerning the purchase of the sweeper gutter brush for the street construction department or service department, and also at the appropriate time, she would like to request the free refuel. Okay, my question now. Tax issue. Mr. Tressel, Mr. Reinhardt, where are we on that? As far as the item I brought up?
You didn't wait for the report of finance. I have a meeting scheduled.
Okay. That, just so I know where it's going. I want to make sure somebody's working on it. I'm not trying to throw anything at you tonight.
No.
Okay, also, now, Paint Street, this is not in my committee, but if you notice, Paint Street, 2nd Street is really looking bad, but I noticed driving down Paint Street tonight, most of the weeds around the trees were cleaned up except around the parking lot that the city owns and out in front. If we're going to fine residents for not keeping their yards in good shape, there's no way we should not, keep our own yard clean. And this has been ongoing. Last year was really bad, but I noticed this year, I don't know what's going on, they stopped at King Street again, because the rest of the way down through here is hit and miss. But we got to find a way to keep the streets downtown free of all the weeds. And I'm talking 4-foot weeds. You've seen them too, Tom. I know you have. But we need to address that issue. There's got to be a way. And that concludes my report. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Mr. Bonner?
Thank you, President Pro Tem Trutchell. The Parks and Rec Department has 3 items on the agenda tonight, and we'll ask to add a 4th here. Item number 9 is to accept and appropriate $4,960 in grant funds received from the Junior Civic League for the city playground and projects and updates. So that's certainly a very nice gesture on their part, very helpful. I think that the Parks and Rec Department is doing great. I think as you've seen with the 5-year plan and our appropriations, moving along forward very nicely, and all the donations we can get are a great help. So I'd like to thank them, and at the appropriate time I will ask that we waive the 3-read rule since we have that money. Item number 10 is accept 42 bags of fertilizer valued at $460 donated to the city of Chillicothe by Walmart. And once again, a very nice gesture from the people at Walmart. We want to keep on that park and keep it looking nice. At the appropriate time, I will ask that we waive that rule since we can get that fertilizer to use. Item number 11 is to endorse the first 2 years of the Parks and Recreation Department 5-year plan. I'll talk about this briefly, let Dave Tanner maybe expand on this. This is really, and I'm not taking any credit for this, Dave has done a great job on this. It's a very nice plan, very thought out. I know that we've often talked about strategic planning, 5-year planning, long-term planning. This really goes right at it, does a great job. You've seen it, so I won't break the whole thing down. It's going to be spending over $1 million the next 5 years, and still leave us $321,500 in our balance. So it'd be nice if the whole city could work that well. It's a really nice plan. At this time, I'll let Dave maybe say a few things, because there has been some changes that Dave will update us on. The total numbers have stayed the same, and if anyone has any questions, Dave has been gracious enough to say.
Dave, would you like to step up to the phone and give us a couple minutes of what you got to say about that?
Council may be aware that I joined the city
a few months ago, was assigned a list of projects to work on by the mayor, and we went back and tried to look at some of the resources available. There's an outstanding master plan that's been in place for the Parks and Rec, and so reviewed that, tried to look at some of the projects that Mayor Everson wants to make a priority, and took the opportunity to put together a 5-year plan of looking at how to use some of the capital funds that are available. We identified projects around updating the playground. A lot of that work had been kind of in place. I just kind of built it into the plan. As we worked on the numbers, some of the projects that we're looking at, it was difficult to come up with an exact number. So we put out a spreadsheet early on with the plan for people to review. What I had to do recently, I did make a change to the playground update. I had put in there for 2014 about 125,000. It's probably going to be closer to 150,000 to get those 3 pods. That's about half of the playground in Octavia Park replaced. If you've had a chance to go down, that equipment has been outstanding. I'm not exactly sure how long it's been there, but some of it was 83, 93. Some of it is wood-based, and so it's starting to show that decay, and some of it was starting to splinter, kind of break apart. So we're trying to make sure we monitor some of the safety issues. We're taking pieces out as we need, but trying to get that updated, because as you know, it's not just our local city or community that uses that park. It is heavily used by a lot of families. So I adjusted the playground amounts up. To do that, I had to take other amounts down because I wanted to stay in line in terms of what we had predicted or projected for that year. So we adjusted numbers up, we adjusted numbers down. The whole process is, as I spoke with the auditor, my understanding is we have about 170,000 coming in on that levy each year. So we've got to get to the point, and you'll notice in years 3, 4, and 5, we're trying to get to the point where we clearly live within the budget of what's coming in, so that we build up a reserve and take on other projects that come. Certainly this list is not necessarily going to be all-inclusive. It's a best guess at this point, but it's a projection of what we could try to work on and try to repair and get improved for our city. The funds are in the capital fund. We just want to take advantage of some of those for capital projects. Are there questions I could try to answer?
If you have any questions, I have a statement. I know the money's been there for a while, we just need to do it.
Well, and really, as I said, the master plan, and people have done great foundational work to this point, and we're just at a good juncture where we can take advantage and use some of those capital funds to make it a better park system for the community. So.
Thank you. Anything else, Mr. Bonner?
Yes, and now I would like to ask council to waive the 3-day receipt rule, which is the actual main part of this, is the appropriation for spending this year's money, which will come to a sum of $267,500 from unappropriated Parks and Recreation Capital Fund, 1 year of the Parks and Recreation Department 5-year plan, and declare an emergency. So I make a motion that we waive the 3-day receipt rule for that.
Motion by Mr. Bonner, second by Mr. Cole. Roll call.
Ames.
Yes.
Bonner.
Yes.
Gray.
Yes.
Patrick.
Yes.
Kroll.
Yes.
Showman.
Yes.
Patman.
Yes.
Truttle.
Yes. And that would be item 12. Tonight's agenda.
And since we do have this money and summer's here at the appropriate time, I will ask that we waive the 3 reading rule and pass this along. And that concludes my report, Mr. President.
Okay. Anyone else have any items for the reports committees? Okay. That would bring me to finance. That's my items. Item number 6. We'll appropriate $37,800 to cover the city's share of costs for the ODOT project on Bridge Street, Eastern Avenue. We talked about that last week, and the auditor let us know that this is an item that we need to pass tonight to address that renovation project. At the appropriate time, I will ask to waive that. Item number 7 is to appropriate $2,000 to be applied toward the purchase of computers and a server for the income tax department. We talked about that a while back in a meeting we had, actually back in January. But this is not a hurry-up item, and this is one of the few items on the agenda that will not have to be waived tonight. And that completes my report. Which brings us to reports of officials. Mayor Reinhardt.
Thank you, President Pro Tem Trutzel. On behalf of the administration, I want to thank the. Go ahead, Alicia.
There was a question on item number 7 with regard to the first reading of ordinance to appropriate $2,000. It was my understanding from Auditor Feeney that this was an emergency and they needed to have this passed tonight.
He didn't let me know that. I was under the impression that it was not a hurry-up item.
Based on his, go ahead.
I was gonna say, Luke called and talked to me about it too and said we needed to do it. And
Well, I will waive it, however, Auditor Feeney didn't say a word to me about that because it was passed tonight. But I'll do that at the appropriate time.
thank
So
you.
that means everything on the agenda. Mayor Reinhardt.
Thank you, President Pro Tem Trutzel. On behalf of the administration, I want to thank council's quick action on a lot of assignments that were just basically dueled out last Monday. Actually, right after our last meeting, the development committee made quick haste of item committee assignments 1473 and 1472, which are on the agenda this evening. Finance committee had quick action on 1470, which is the additional $37,800 for the ODOT project, where the bids came in over in our matching share. It's just part of the bill we have to pay to complete that project. And the administration would urge and ask council's support on passing that this evening. As well as the Parks and Rec Committee obviously was very busy as well. I want to thank Mr. Bonner and his committee for bringing 1471, 1468, 69 to legislation this evening. Thank the Law Director's Office. Obviously, Teresa was quite busy in preparing these ordinances when we basically had less than a week's time between two very busy legislative meetings. I would like to thank the HR Committee for bringing the two seasonal employee ordinances up. I would ask and urge your support this evening. We don't meet again until June 9th, and they're going to need those employees to get the full staff hired and get things moving on that as well. I want to thank, on behalf of the administration as well, the Junior Civic League for their generous donation of the $4,960, again going into our parks and our playground system. And also thank Walgreens for their donation for the bags of fertilizer again this year. I know they, Walmart, I'm sorry, thank you, Tom. I can't read my own writing here. Back to the medical professional handwriting here. I'm used to typing now. Thank Walmart for their generous donation on the bags of fertilizer. Again, that we use to help beautify our city and our park. And again, ask for council support of waiving the 3-read rule and passing those items this evening. Also, I actually meant to bring this up last week under the president's report, but just actually forgot. I do want to congratulate. This kind of went under the radar, but one of Chillicothe's own was drafted in the NFL draft a couple of weeks ago. Mr. Drew Basil, our Chillicothe High School kicker and Ohio State's kicker, was drafted late by the Atlanta Falcons, and I, from the city's end, very proud of Drew. He comes from a great family. Most folks know his father was a retired teacher at Chillicothe, and we wish Drew the best, and hopefully he can have a long and stellar career like our current Ben Hartsock, who's still trudging along in the NFL, I think 10 or 12 years after the fact. So want to congratulate Drew on being drafted and wish him a very successful career in the NFL, and I know he'll make us proud. Last but not least, was mentioned we are meeting tonight in honor of Memorial Day, which is next Monday, and I want to thank council for moving the meeting to tonight. Obviously, we did not want to work on Memorial Day and spend time with our friends and loved ones, but I definitely think in reverence and respect for actually what that holiday means, I want to thank everybody for moving that, and take a moment next Monday, and in between the hot dogs and the hamburgers and good times and celebrations with friends and family, think of what that holiday is. It's not Veterans Day. Some folks get confused. Veterans Day is the holiday to actually honor current, former veterans of all stripes. Memorial Day is actually a more solemn holiday where we're honoring and respecting from the first fire at Lexington and Concord and the start of the revolution that created this great republic to currently now our troops serving in Afghanistan and all over the world, defending freedom and democracy all over the world. So take an extra time next Monday, say a prayer, take time to honor any of your friends, family members that actually have lost their lives in defense of freedom, of why we're here this evening, that we can debate the capital budget for the Parks Department or hire our summer employees. We wouldn't be doing that if it wasn't for the sacrifices of those that are greatly and duly honored next Monday night. So again, please take an extra second next Monday. And again, I wanted to thank council for moving that legislative meeting off of that kind of sacred national holiday. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hunter. And that brings us to audience participation. You have 5 minutes to give your report of your whatever you have in mind, and just give your name and address, and please step to the microphone, anyone who wishes to speak.
My name is John Stevens. I live at 522 Seminole Road. I've got two very short things to say. One, we heard a lot early on this year about how nice the parks were going to be taken care of. It hasn't happened. Down below the cabooses on that bank there's weeds growing up probably 2 foot around practically every tree in the park. There's volunteer shoots coming up that needs to be taken off. And I'm disappointed in, after hearing all the fabulous plans we were going to have, it hasn't happened. And the second thing I'm very disappointed with is the council themselves. Practically everything that comes up has to be waive the 3-read rule, waive the 3-day receipt rule. Where I come from, lack of planning on your part does not constitute an emergency on mine. It was set up to have the 3 read. That was the reason it was set up. But now almost everything you're doing, you're not following through on that. You're rushing it through, and I don't like it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Stevens. Anyone else? Mr. Connie Wiley.
I'm Riley, 256 Church Street. Just a little bit of confusion on this 5-year plan and the 2-year, the resolution and the emergency need of it. It's kind of like a surprise. I'm not quite sure. I'll talk directly with Mr. Bonner. That meeting that you had one night when you were the only person there, there were about 4 of us listening. Was that an explanation of the 5-year plan? Was that what that meeting was?
When I was the only person there?
Yeah.
Well, you were there, so I wasn't the only person there.
No, you were the only, it was after a park and rec meeting.
Oh, yeah.
And the board left and you came in and you talked to about 5 of us.
Okay.
Was that an explanation of the 5-year plan?
Yeah, the whole thing was passed out, and I asked anyone who had any questions, tried to explain it.
Okay, well, it must be pretty dull on them because I didn't get that. But my question is, it says here the resolution is declared to be an emergency, necessary, and all that. And the reason for such necessity is that the council wishes to extend their support and endorsement of the first 2 years of the park and recreation. I always did think that this body did support the park, so I don't understand the need for this. I certainly don't understand the emergency of it. I just figured, you know, you do business as needed, you take care of things, and you improve what you can. So I'm not getting this, why this was, have I missed something somewhere?
Well, let me, let's say, yeah, the whole endorse the 2-year and the 5-year plan. This is just because, and that's not an emergency, and it really doesn't have to be written as an emergency. We won't, pass that for the, I'm not planning on passing that, waiving the rule or anything. That's just to try to help with long-term planning, let everyone get on the same page, so maybe there won't be this confusion in the future. And this is the first time I think that any of our park directors have actually written a plan like this. So we wanted to pass it, we wanted to give it to council, give it to everybody, let them see this. It goes with the master plan, the park's master plan. It builds in with that. So yeah, that's why we're doing that, just kind of etching out some long-range plans. Now, we will pass the spending for this year tonight because it has been, we want to get these projects taken care of as soon as we can.
Okay, does anyone else have anything to say? Audience participation? Okay with that? Go to old business. With that brings us to old business.
Well, I was going to address
You
Mr.
can address
Stevens.
that in old business.
Okay. Mr. Stevens, I wanted to at least let you know on the human resources, both of those items, pieces of legislation came to HR committee on the 25th of April. Now, granted, we're dealing with seasonal workers, we need to be able to get them on the books as quickly as possible. But what council has been trying to get across to the administration is that this isn't something that we realize happens by accident, that it comes every year, and that planning needs to be done earlier in the year. They knew back in early part of the year that this was going to be coming forward, and that we are recommending that they present this to council earlier in the year rather than a few weeks prior to them having the meeting. But because of the fact that we're quickly going into the end of May, going into June, they need to have these workers on board as soon as possible. So we need to get the legislation going so appropriations can be made. It takes a little while to be able to get that done. But I agree with you that there has to be planning done with respect to legislation.
Everything seems like it's coming before council recently. You gotta get rid of the 3-day receipt rule, and then you do away with the 3 read rule. That's not acceptable.
I understand what you're saying. In reference to being able to have expediency when we have something similar to grants and things of that nature, we have to have a mechanism in place to be able to have that done quickly. But I agree with you, there has to be planning, and has to be done on a timely basis. We know that a lot of these pieces of legislation come every year. It's got to happen earlier in the year.
It doesn't.
No, I understand that. I
How
agree.
do you force it to happen if you don't go ahead?
Let's
and pass this?
just get away from the debate here. We all know the reason why a lot of these waive the rules, accepting money, for example. There's a lot of different reasons why these things happen, and it's not always because we're just in a hurry to get rid of it. That's not why it's done. There's a reason for this. Okay, anyone else have any old business? Mrs. Patrick.
Thank you, President Pro Tem. I'd just like to comment on the ordinance here, number 12. In the first line, it says we're appropriating $267,500, but if you look at their plan here, for first year, it's $277,000, so we've lost $10,000 somehow. But I don't support waiving the 3 read rule on spending, $250,000. And I would like to have a review session on this 5-year plan and the ordinance to spend the money. This is the first time I've been doing this for 10 years, where we're endorsing a 5-year plan. Utilities has had their 5-year plan for years now, ever since I've been on it, so.
That's a sore subject with me, Mrs.
Yeah.
Patrick.
I know, but I'm just saying, other departments have it, and we don't endorse it. fire department has it, we didn't endorse those. I don't quite understand why we need to do that with Parks and Rec.
I understand. Anyone else from old business? Mr. Bonner?
Thank you, President Trutchell. Going back to the point, I think Mr. Tapman brought up earlier about the streets, and we're kind of looking at two different options right now, how to bring some money in to raise, to help repair these streets, which we badly need. A possible 0.02% in the raise in the income tax, or looking at raising the fee of license plates up to $20. Both have merit. The income tax, I think, may be a little overkill, going to bring in 1.4 million. I would prefer to go with the license plate. This is more of a number. 400,000 it would bring in is more of a number that I think is doable for the community. It helps us, as the auditor pointed out, secure some loans. It's something that we can enact ourselves. It's not going to be very popular, obviously, but we can enact that. And it's direct user fee. I know people call it a tax, and it is a tax, but sometimes taxes are called user fees. But everyone that buys the license plates use the roads. I mean, it's a direct correlation there. Whereas everyone is not paying income tax. So people may be getting taxed unfairly with the raise of the tax. Whereas if you go directly with the license plate fees, this is, direct correlation to use. So I would like to see us do that. And I know it's going to be quite some time before we get the money in for either one of these. But I would like to see us, really look at that, go forward with that. Our streets are in, obviously, bad need of repair. We knew this. I mean, council, we put these off. We weren't kidding ourselves. We knew that there was going to be a day when we were going to have to put a lot of money into the streets. We was able to save layoffs and things like that for as long as we could. Now we can't. The streets are, they're that bad. So I just think we need to do one of the two. I would prefer that. There's no guarantee that if we wait and put an additional tax on the ballot that it would pass. Just the people I talk to, some people are very much for it, and as always, some people are very much against it. And that's the way it usually goes. So that's what, I would kind of like to see us do that. I'd like to see us get it enacted. So I believe 2016 or 2016 is the earliest we could get that money, even if we pass it by July. So I would like to see us do that. I don't think it's a terrible hit on people. I think it's a direct correlation, and it will be something that will really benefit our city. Thank you.
Thank you. I have, the Finance Committee will have a meeting 4 o'clock, the first floor meeting room, this Thursday, to discuss the $5 license fee, and also the developing a financial plan for the maintenance of city streets. 4 o'clock Thursday. $5 license tag fee. Keep in mind that that'll raise about $100,000. If it's $5, that won't do much. Neither will $400,000. We borrowed $2 million several years ago. We're still paying out. License tag fee is a drop in the bucket. Ain't gonna do it.
I think that's why we should
So
talk
that's
about
it.
it.
Anyone else with a report? Okay, we got petitions and correspondence for the clerk.
Mr. President, I don't have anything to report on tonight. I do just want to comment, I've been clerk for 23 years, and through different administrations, both parties, and through many council members, I have seen city council routinely suspend the 3 reading rule, which does take 7 votes, and pass legislation because council only meets twice a month. Bills come in every day. Most of what they suspend the 3 reading rule as permitted by the state of Ohio is to get the bills paid and to appropriate monies and to accept donations as are on tonight's agenda. So I can appreciate criticism of the suspension of the three reading rule, but I have observed that council does try, as in the item number 1, to allow items that are not needed for business reasons to be passed right away to go the three reading route. And the same goes for suspension of the 3-day receipt rule. The city law director's office worked very hard this past week to get 10 new pieces of legislation to me by Thursday evening as required by the rules of council so that they could be placed on tonight's agenda. However, the 12th item tonight, which is their 11th item that they prepared, is a multi-page piece of legislation. From the comments you've already heard, there's concern about waiving the three reading rule on that tonight, and we will see if that happens. But to get it on tonight's agenda, the 3-day receipt rule is being suspended. That merely obviates the necessity, as required by the rules when they are not suspended. The necessity is that council members have a copy of all legislation on their desk or delivered to them 3 days before the council meeting, so they have time to look over that legislation. And also, I do send out the legislation via email and hand delivery to media outlets, to other interested parties. We do try to get people informed, and if anybody in the public wants to be added to the list, get your email to me and I'll put you on there, and you will see the copies of legislation on the Fridays before council meetings. I think from my 23 years experience that this council does try to be very transparent and does try to take things in a measured pace before voting on anything other than the routine spending or acceptance items. So I just want to make those observations as the clerk of council. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. Well said. Brings us to new business. Mrs. Gray.
Thank you, President President. I'd just like to salute the graduating seniors from area high schools, including my son Dan, and congratulations on a job well done.
Thank you, Mrs. Gray. I attended the awards ceremony the other day. It was tremendous. Chillicothe High School. Anyone else with new business? Brings us to committee assignments and meeting dates. One meeting date is this Thursday at 4 o'clock across the street. And I can't find my committee assignments. Thank you, Rick. Okay. Assignment 1470, Finance Committee, a request for legislation transferring an additional $37,800 from unappropriated state highway fund to the city match account regarding ODOT, US 50, and Bridge Street Eastern Avenue project. Item 1471 is Parks and Recreation Committee, a request for legislation to accept the grant monies in the amount of $4,960 from the Junior Civic League to be used towards playground update projects. Item 1472 is the Development Committee, a request for legislation authorizing the mayor to file for an application to the state of Ohio to participate in the Small Cities Allocation Program for the 2014 budget, accepting said grant if awarded, agreeing to comply with the program requirements, and authorizing Mike Sepoy and Associates to administer the program. Items are assignments 1473 to the Development Committee, a request for legislation to amend Ordinance 28-14 to correct parcel numbers. Items 1474 for Safety Services Committee, a request for legislation to accept a training reimbursement grant from Ohio Department of Commerce totaling $1,695 awarded to the Chillicothe Fire Department for training completed in 2013. Item 1475, Human Resources, a request for legislation changing the clerk stenographer position to that of the Utilities Billing Clerk. 1476, the Human Resource Committee, a request for legislation to appropriate $10,000 to the General Fund miscellaneous for the city's wellness program through UHC. 1477, the Safety Service Committee, a request for legislation to accept a grant awarded to the Chillicothe Fire Department to purchase 3 thermal imaging cameras for their fire engines in the amount of $34,500, approved to reallocate $3,450 to pay the city's 10% share of the cost. 1478, the Safety Services Committee, a request for legislation to appropriate $16,000 to the fire department for vehicle and tire repair. And item 1479, Parks and Recreation, a request for a resolution of council supporting the tree commission in a Millennium Grove. And that completes that. Is there any other meeting dates that anyone should know about? Members of council? Okay. That brings us to legislation. Item 1.
Third reading of a resolution accepting the annual report of the Chillicothe Reinvestment Areas Tax Incentive Review Council. Third reading.
Roll call.
Ames.
Yes.
Bonner.
Yes.
Gray.
Yes.
Patrick.
Yes.
Kroll.
Yes.
Showman.
Yes.
Tatman.
Yes.
Trutchell.
Yes. That resolution passes 8-0. Item 2.
First reading of an ordinance amending ordinance number 28-14 to state correct parcel numbers and authorizing the appropriate city officials to act on behalf of the city of Chillicothe to ensure said corrections are properly recorded and declaring an emergency. First reading.
Mrs. Ames?
I move to waive the free review to correct this ordinance so that the incorrect numbers don't remain on the ordinance any longer than necessary.
Second by Mrs. Gray. Roll call on the motion?
Ames.
Yes.
Bonner.
Yes.
Gray.
Yes.
Patrick.
Yes.
Kroll.
Yes.
Showman.
Yes.
Tatman.
Yes.
Trutchell.
Yes. Roll call on the ordinance?
Ames.
Yes.
Bonner.
Yes.
Gray.
Yes.
Patrick.
Yes.
Kroll.
Yes.
Showman.
Yes.
Tatman.
Yes.
Trutchell.
Yes. And that ordinance passes. Item 3.
First reading of a resolution authorizing the mayor to file an application to the state of Ohio to participate in the Small Cities Community Development Block Grant Allocation Program for fiscal year 2014, accepting the grant if funded, agreeing to comply with the program requirements, authorizing Michael Secoy and Associates to administer the program, and declaring an emergency. First reading.
Item 4.
First reading of an ordinance appropriating $3,143.36 for the purchase of a sweeper gutter brush attachment for use within the street construction department and declaring an emergency. First reading.
Mr. Conley.
At this time, I would like to request the waive of the free review.
Second by Mrs. Ames. Roll call on the motion?
Ames.
Yes.
Bonner.
Yes.
Gray.
Yes.
Patrick.
Yes.
Kroll.
Yes.
Showman.
Yes.
Tatman.
Yes.
Trutchell.
Yes. Passes 8-0. Ordinance? Roll call?
Ames.
Yes.
Bonner.
Yes.
Gray.
Yes.
Patrick.
Yes.
Kroll.
Yeah.
Showman.
Yes.
Tatman.
Yes.
Trutchell.
Yes. Item 5.
First reading of an ordinance appropriating an additional $13,000 for salary and benefits of seasonal workers employed by the city at the Donald M. Smith Memorial Pool for the 2014 season and declaring an emergency. First reading.
Mrs. Gray.
Yes, sir. I'd like to ask that you waive the free review, please.
Second by Mrs. Ames. Roll call on the motion?
Ames.
Yes.
Bonner.
Yes.
Gray.
Yes.
Patrick.
Yes.
Kroll.
Yes.
Showman.
Yes.
Tatman.
Yes.
Trutchell.
Yes. Roll call on the ordinance?
Ames.
Yes.
Bonner.
Yes.
Gray.
Yes.
Patrick.
Yes.
Kroll.
Yes.
Showman.
Yes.
Tatman.
Yes.
Trutchell.
Yes. Item 6,
First reading of an ordinance appropriating $37,800 to cover the city's share of costs for the Ohio Department of Transportation project on Bridge Street and Eastern Avenue and declaring an emergency. First reading.
and for reasons given in my report, I'd like to make a motion to waive the three reading rule, seconded by Mrs. Patrick. Roll call on the motion.
Ames.
Yes.
Bonner.
Yes.
Gray.
Yes.
Patrick.
Yes.
Kroll.
Yes.
Showman.
Yes.
Patton.
Yes.
Truttle.
Yes. Roll call on the ordinance.
Ames.
Yes.
Bonner.
Yes.
Gray.
Yes.
Patrick.
Yes.
Kroll.
Yes.
Showman.
Yes.
Tatman.
Yes.
Truttle.
Yes. Item 7,
First reading of an ordinance appropriating $2,000 to be applied toward the purchase of computers and a server for the income tax department and declaring an emergency. First reading.
and for reasons stated by Mrs. Patrick, I would like to make a motion that we waive the three reading rule. Second by Mrs. Patrick. Roll call on the motion.
Ames.
Yes.
Bonner.
Yes.
Gray.
Yes.
Patrick.
Yes.
Kroll.
Yes.
Showman.
Yes.
Tatman.
Yes.
Truttle.
Yes. Motion passes. Roll call on the ordinance.
Ames.
Yes.
Bonner.
Yes.
Gray.
Yes.
Patrick.
Yes.
Kroll.
Yes.
Showman.
Yes.
Tatman.
Yes.
Truttle.
Yes. Item 8,
First reading of an ordinance establishing the salary schedule for part-time seasonal employees of the Parks and Swimming Pool Departments of the City of Chillicothe and declaring an emergency. First reading.
Mrs. Gray.
Yes, sir, thank you. I would like to respectfully waive, ask for waive the three reading rule, please.
Second by Mrs. Ames. Roll call on the motion.
Ames.
Yes.
Bonner.
Yes.
Gray.
Yes.
Patrick.
Yes.
Kroll.
Yes.
Showman.
Yes.
Tatman.
Yes.
Truttle.
Yes. Roll call on the ordinance.
Ames.
Yes.
Bonner.
Yes.
Gray.
Yes.
Patrick.
Yes.
Kroll.
Yes.
Showman.
Yes.
Tatman.
Yes.
Truttle.
Yes. Item 9,
First reading of an ordinance accepting and appropriating $4,960 in grant funds received from the Junior Civic League for City Park Playground Update projects and declaring an emergency. First reading.
Mr. Bonner, did you want to waive?
Oh, yes. Thank you very much. I'll back up. I make a motion to waive the three reading rule.
Second by Mrs. Ames. Roll call on the motion.
Ames.
Yes.
Bonner.
Yes.
Gray.
Yes.
Patrick.
Yes.
Kroll.
Yes.
Showman.
Yes.
Tatman.
Yes.
Truttle.
Yes. Roll call on the ordinance.
Ames.
Yes.
Bonner.
Yes.
Gray.
Yes.
Patrick.
Yes.
Kroll.
Yes.
Showman.
Yes.
Tatman.
Yes.
Truttle.
Yes. That ordinance passes. Item 10,
First reading of an ordinance accepting 42 bags of fertilizer valued at $460 donated to the City of Chillicothe by Walmart and declaring an emergency. First reading.
Mr. Bonner,
Yes, I would like to make a motion to waive the three reading rule.
second by Mrs. Ames. Roll call on the motion.
Ames.
Yes.
Bonner.
Yes.
Gray.
Yes.
Patrick.
Yes.
Kroll.
Yes.
Showman.
Yes.
Tatman.
Yes.
Truttle.
Yes. That motion passes. Roll call on the ordinance.
Ames.
Yes.
Bonner.
Yes.
Gray.
Yes.
Patrick.
Yes.
Kroll.
Yes.
Showman.
Yes.
Tatman.
Yes.
Truttle.
Yes. Item 11,
First reading of a resolution endorsing the first 2 years of the Parks and Recreation Department 5-year plan and declaring an emergency. First reading.
item 12,
First reading of an ordinance appropriating $267,500 from unappropriated Parks and Recreation capital to fund year 1 of the Parks and Recreation Department 5-year plan and declaring an emergency. First reading.
Mr. Bonner.
Yeah, yes, before I ask to waive this, I'll just give a quick background about this. back quite some time ago, Dave Tanner and I attended 3 different meetings dealing with the Parks and Rec and many different aspects, and we talked about many of these things. Those were, for our city meetings, very well attended. They were one centered around baseball, one centered around softball, another one I think just the annex in general. The mayor was at 1 or 2 of them. I think Mr. Reinhardt was at 1 of them. Very well, as you know, our meetings, there's usually very few people there, but we had 25 plus at all these meetings. It went very well, and I felt everyone was on the same page. After those meetings, Dave Tanner wrote the 5-year plan, which also are the appropriations for this year. I had a committee meeting to talk about the appropriations, which have had some minor changes since then, because they were just an estimate, and as you know, we knew they would be, and that was the meeting that was not very well attended. I think, as Ms. Riley said, I was the only person from council there. I think Ms. Stevens and Mrs. Riley was there. Maybe another person or 2. Maybe Matthew was there. I don't remember who was all there. And if I didn't do a good enough job explaining that, I certainly apologize. Give them time to look at it, ask any questions. Certainly, I answered any question that was asked at that time. Then I was hoping that maybe, I'm sure Mr. Riley probably remembers the day of that meeting better than I do. I was hoping maybe to get that assignment a little bit sooner than what I did. I received the assignment, I think, 9 days ago. I'm sure Mr. Reinhardt didn't get it much before that, because I'll give him all the credit in the world. He did as quick as he got that to me as quick as he could. And so about May something, I received this assignment about 9 days ago, 8 days ago. And that's where we are right here. We have the money. I think it's a good plan. You know, I want to spend it for the benefit, you know, of our citizens. No more, no less. They voted for that money to be spent and brought in. I like to see it spent. I'll certainly answer any questions anyone has. But I do make the motion to waive the 3 rule.
Second, Mrs. Ames. Roll call on the motion.
Ames.
Yes.
Bonner.
Yes.
Gray.
No.
Patrick.
No.
Kroll.
No.
Showman.
No.
Tapman.
No.
Trutchell.
No. It failed.
6 to 2.
6 to 2. 2 to 6, actually.
Yeah, 2 to 6.
That completes our legislation for this evening. Do we have a motion to adjourn? Mr. Bonner.
Motion to adjourn.
Second by Mrs. Gray. Roll call.
Ames.
Yes.
Bonner.
Yes.
Gray.
Yes.
Patrick.
Yes.
Kroll.
Yes.
Showman.
Yes.
Tapman.
Yes.
Trutchell.
Yes.